हेलो बच्चों। आज हम स्टार्ट करेंगे GS 3 के क्वेश्चन नंबर 11 से। 10 क्वेश्चन हम कर चुके हैं और मेरा ऑब्जेक्टिव है कि आपको क्वेश्चंस को रियल में समझाऊं, कैसे अप्रोच करना है, कैसे उनके आंसर लिखने हैं। अब हम हैं क्वेश्चन नंबर 11 पर। क्वेश्चन नंबर 11 क्या कह रहा है? क्वेश्चन नंबर 11 बेटा इज बेसिकली asking about explain how the fiscal health, you know what is the meaning of fiscal? So fiscal health index can be used as a tool for assessing the fiscal performance of states in India. In what way would it encourage the states to adopt prudent and sustainable fiscal policies? Very interesting. तो क्या कह रहा है, इसको ध्यान से देखिए आप। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हमको पता होना चाहिए कि फिजिकल हेल्थ इंडेक्स है क्या। ये जो FHI है ना बेटा, दिस FHI ये किस चीज को रिलेट करता है? इट बेसिकली टॉक्स अबाउट स्टेट्स फाइनेंसेस। सो टॉक्स अबाउट स्टेट फाइनेंसेस। सो स्टेट फाइनेंसेस में क्या क्या चीज हो सकता है? सबसे पहले हमारा रिवेन्यू। सो स्टेट फाइनेंसेस में क्या क्या चीज आएंगी? लेट अस राइट हियर रिवेन्यू एफर्ट्स, number 2, what is the expenditure pattern? Expenditure management. Or third beta is very important, that what about that debit, that is debt position, debt management. एंड डेट मैनेजमेंट के साथ साथ एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज किसी भी स्टेट के या कंट्री के, जब हम फिजिकल हेल्थ की बात करते हैं तो देन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट फिजिकल डेफिसिट। अर्थात ये जो 4 इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें हैं जो कि हमको ये बतलाती हैं कि स्टेट की क्या कंडीशन है। अर्थात जो हमारे स्टेट के एफर्ट्स हैं, एफर्ट्स क्या हैं? अब ये तो हम कर रहे हैं, सारी चीज़ निकाल ली हमने। अब ये फिजिकल मैनेजमेंट, क्योंकि हमने डेफिसिट निकाल लिया, अब डेफिसिट के बाद हम ये चाहते हैं कि फिजिकल सस्टेनेबिलिटी हमारी कैसे हो। सो ये इंडेक्स बेसिकली इन 5 कंपोनेंट से बना होता है। Once you are able to write these 5 components in your reply, when you start writing the answer on this, first you have to write कि भाई these are the 5 factors on which FHI is dependent. Okay, so it can be used certainly to assess the fiscal performance, क्योंकि अगर रेवेन्यू सही इकट्ठा हो रहा है, एक्सपेंडिचर कंट्रोल में है, डेफिसिट हमारा फिजिकल डेफिसिट विद इन द लिमिट्स है और स्टेट में डेट नहीं लेनी पड़ रही है, अर्थात हमारा जो फिजिकल सिस्टम है वो सस्टेनेबल है। अगर ये चीज़ें 5 हम फुलफिल कर रहे हैं तो हमारे स्टेट की जो परफॉर्मेंस है, फिजिकल परफॉर्मेंस है, दैट इज रिमार्केबल। ओके, एंड दैट्स व्हाई it has been asked that in what way would it encourage the states to adopt prudent and sustainable fiscal policies. अब जैसे हमने देखा कि भाई ये हमारा इंडेक्स कम आ रहा है, सपोज इंडेक्स इज लोअर, नाउ सपोज द इंडेक्स इज लो, तो क्या मतलब हुआ? इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि पॉसिबिलिटी है कि हमारे रेवेन्यू एफर्ट्स आर लो expenditure is out of control, and we are not able to manage the fiscal deficit. It is going up. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि अगर हम इस पर्टिकुलर इंडेक्स को जानते हैं, किसी स्टेट के बारे में हमने निकाल लिया है, तो हम आसानी से स्टेट को ये सजेस्ट कर सकते हैं कि तुम्हारी फिस्कल पॉलिसीज़ इस तरह से कर लो कि स्टेट की जो फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन है उसका मैनेजमेंट आपके हाथ में रहे और स्टेट की पोजीशन अपने डेवलपमेंटल स्कीम्स को फाइनेंस करने के लिए स्ट्रांग बनती रहे. सो दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. लेट अस गो टू नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. नाउ इसमें क्या बात कर रहा है? डिस्कस द रेशनल ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन लिंक incentive scheme. What are its achievements? In what way can the functioning and outcomes of the scheme be improved? Now, सबसे पहले हमें याद रखना पड़ेगा कि PLI scheme, Production Linked Incentive Scheme, it was launched just after COVID when our condition, financial condition was very poor, the business has stuck up, and then what was happening in a negative direction was that whole industry was shut off. In these circumstances, in 2020, we brought this scheme for augmenting domestic production. Okay, so इसका डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन को बाय लिंकिंग और बाय गिविंग incentives for achieving the targets of production. So, this scheme is basically meant and was basically started for the purpose of enhancing and increasing the domestic production and production capacities so that we have higher production, higher employment and more money in the hands of the people. This is what you have to remember. Now, very important thing is what were the achievements and what were the success areas. Very important. What happened? We all know Samsung and all those companies. So, success areas, electronics, pharmaceuticals and automotives. Electronics, pharma and automotives. Now, let us see some major achievement, very major achievement. You know, it basically called in for, जब ये स्कीम लागू की गई उसके बाद it attracted investment worth 1.76 lakh crores. So, it was huge investment which basically came into the country naturally. Then what happened? We were thinking that the manufacturing contribution GDP का वो बढ़ जाए. हम what were we aiming? So, we were aiming by this investment that industrial contribution goes to 25% of GDP. It means the idea was to give major impetus to production activities in the country. Now, we should remember that this particular scheme has ultimately slowed down now. This we cannot forget. That the companies which had obtained the certification under this scheme, they earn profits, and now, like for Samsung, they have shifted quite a bit of production out of our country to other places. It means the formal processing of this particular scheme has not led the country to a direction which it should have been. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि हमारे को इस पर्टिकुलर स्कीम को इम्पिटस देने के लिए जो इस क्वेश्चन को पूछा गया है कि what can be done to improve the scheme's functioning. सबसे बड़ी बात तो ये है, सबसे बड़ी बात इस स्कीम को इम्प्रूव करने के लिए क्या होना चाहिए? मेजर्स फॉर इम्प्रूवमेंट. सबसे बड़ा मेजर, सनशाइन सेक्टर शुड बी इंक्लूडेड. सनशाइन sectors should be included. Like semiconductors. And especially looking to the tariff war situation which is now troubling our country a lot, we have to bother about that supplier network, because whatsoever is happening in our country, the production will not get increased or enhanced unless we have proper supplier network for our industries which will be eligible under this scheme. So, not only declaration of this scheme, but we should have proper supplier network. So, if we do these two things, right, and if we increase the quantity along with the quality, because when we are taking industries now, we are forcing and we are thinking that our own domestic industry should participate in this scheme. The basic idea is that quality of the products which are produced in our country, they are comparable to international standards. So, if we take these three actions, naturally, we shall be able to give very strong impetus to this scheme, and I am very sure you can write in the end while concluding that the advantages of this particular scheme will then be coming more and more to our domestic companies, which will be a major achievement of this particular scheme. Now, let us go to next question. Examine the factors responsible for depleting groundwater in India. Now, very important. So, let us study it like this. So, what can be the factors? Number one, urbanization, heavy urbanization. This urbanization is leading to flow of water not seeping under the ground. The water is basically flowing on the roads, on the pakka places, and then ultimately it is going to river. So, the groundwater level which should increase is not happening, number one. Second is basically over extraction of water for intensive agriculture. So, over exploitation of water for agriculture purposes. This is one thing. और बच्चों, another thing which is causing depletion, which you all know, unregulated extraction of water. बच्चों, इसके अलावा हमने ये देखा है कि हम लोग पेड़ों को काट रहे हैं, जंगलों को ख़त्म कर रहे हैं, तो हमारे यहाँ जो डिफॉरेस्टेशन हो रहा है, दिस हैज़ ऑल्सो रिजल्टेड इन डिप्लीशन ऑफ ग्राउंड वाटर लेवल. सो नेक्स्ट वी कैन राइट deforestation. Leading to heavy lowering of water table, and this is causing really great trouble to all of us. Now, the point is, if this is happening, then what should be done by the government to mitigate such depletion of the groundwater? So, most important thing which we should do is here, that we should go in for more and more micro irrigation. Urbanization, the planning, the town planning should leave sufficient spaces for water seeping into the ground. Okay. Now, third thing which is written here is unregulated extraction of water. You know, every state is having laws for constructing tube wells. This should be strictly strict compliance. और बच्चों, whenever we are hitting forests need to be protected. Forests need to be protected, and if trees are cut, alternative plantation, जिसको हम कहते हैं compensatory plantation should be enforced. This is a very important question, very simple question, but needed your focused approach to write the answer. Okay. Then बच्चों, the next question is examine the scope of food processing industries in India. मेरा बड़ा प्रिय सब्जेक्ट है और मैं इसको बहुत ज़्यादा लगन से पढ़ाता हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि हमारे कंट्री में फूड प्रोसेसिंग की बहुत ज़्यादा आवश्यकता है और बहुत ज़्यादा पॉसिबिलिटीज़ हैं. सो हमें ये ध्यान रखना है कि ये स्कीम फूड प्रोसेसिंग का स्ट्रक्चर हमारे कंट्री के अंदर बहुत स्ट्रांगली चले. अब हमें ये देखना है कि बेसिकली फूड प्रोसेसिंग के लिए क्या क्या स्कीम्स हैं. एग्जामिन द स्कोप ऑफ द फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री इन इंडिया elaborate the measures taken by the government. Now सबसे पहले हमको देखना है कि what is the scope. So we should remember that we have huge possibilities in export of vegetable products. Third, huge potential for fish and fish products. And another thing, you know, because our country is so huge, the transportation of perishable products, that becomes very, very critical. So we can say another scope is the transportation of food items to greater distances. And of course, when we talk about food processing, it is resulting into lot of value addition. So it is direct benefit to the farmers by value addition. So direct benefit to farmers by way of value addition. Now, consequently, when we are discussing about the possibilities and the efforts which are put in by the government, and government जो कर रही है इसके बारे में उसको जाना पड़ेगा. सबसे पहले हमें याद रखना पड़ेगा कि गवर्नमेंट बहुत एक इम्पॉर्टेंट स्कीम को लेकर चली है, दैट इज मेगा फूड पार्क्स. This is a scheme where we have integrated approach for collecting, processing, branding, and transportation of food products. This is one of the major schemes in the area of food processing. Then second बच्चों हमें याद रखना चाहिए एक स्पेशल स्कीम यहाँ पर भी PLI की चलाई गई है, which is known as PLI SFPI. So PLI SFPI. SFPI. So this is basically production link scheme for food processing industry, especially located at far-flung areas. Then PM formalization of micro food processing. Thank you. Then PM formalization of micro food processing. So PM is very, very important scheme. You should remember to mention such important schemes in the answers so that you get more marks than others, right? So PM formalization क्या कर रहे हैं कि पीएम के इस पर्टिकुलर स्कीम के अंदर माइक्रो फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री के बारे में डिस्कशन किया गया है, एंड दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट फॉर आवर कंट्री. फॉर्मुलेशन ऑफ माइक्रो फूड प्रोसेसिंग. एंड बच्चों, another major effort which is being put in by the government is Kisan Sampada Yojana. So these are the special efforts, and they are bound to give employment opportunities to substantial amount. So इस क्वेश्चन को इस तरह से बनाना है, और याद रखिए जब भी आप क्वेश्चंस बना रहे हैं, आंसर बना रहे हैं, तो उन आंसर्स को लिखते हुए हमेशा ये कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि पॉइंट वाइज आंसर हो. यूपीएससी पेपर्स के लिए अगर अच्छे मार्क्स हम लेना चाहते हैं तो पॉइंट वाइज आंसर लिखना हमको आना ही चाहिए, उसकी प्रैक्टिस होनी ही चाहिए. ओके, नाउ लेट अस गो टू नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. That is, how does nanotechnology offer significant advancements? How does nanotechnology? The question is, the demand of question, कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग या एग्रीकल्चर, दो ही सेक्टर होते हैं, इसमें ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. तो इस क्वेश्चन को क्या कहा गया है? हाउ डज नैनोटेक्नोलॉजी ऑफर सिग्निफिकेंट एडवांसमेंट्स इन द फील्ड ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर? How can this technology help to uplift the socio-economic status of the farmers? Very important questions which have been asked in this particular paper this year. This question appears to be very simple, but it is not. Remember it. The first thing which we can understand, that we can think of nanotech based slow release fertilizers. And we should mention here nano urea, nano liquid fertilizers, etc. This very important thing, this is the advancement which basically very significant for the field of agriculture, right? Secondly, when we are talking about nanoparticles, basic thing is that we can use these things, use these particles to preserve food. It means for food packaging. So for food and processed food packaging, nanoparticles can work remarkably well to give strength to the farmers. So what we are saying? So food preservation, and enhancing shelf life. Then nano pesticides, again they are sustained release chemicals. बच्चों, इन तीन के साथ साथ एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है which is now very frequently being used, that is nano sensors. Nano sensors for what? nanosensors for measuring and monitoring the soil health and crop progress. अगर हमने इतना लिख दिया तो आप ये मान लीजिए हमने ज़्यादातर पार्ट इस क्वेश्चन का कवर कर लिया. अब नाउ द टॉपिक इज हाउ कैन दिस टेक्नोलॉजी हेल्प टू अपलिफ्ट द सोशो इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस. इज वेरी सिंपल. नाउ व्हेन वी talk about part B of this answer, we can say there will be lesser losses to the crops, leading to lot of savings. Then these nanoparticle based technologies will certainly result into improving the crop intensity. So, higher crop intensity, of course, higher outputs, and at the top of it, scientific management of the crop life. This is how you have to write this answer. It was very easy, but you had to know what exact applications are being talked about. Okay. Next question is, India aims to become a semiconductor manufacturing hub. What are the challenges faced by semiconductor industry in India? Very simple. Now, we know that we already have Indian semiconductor mission. So, here first of all, you have to describe the features, important provisions of the mission, and then it is asking for one very, very important thing, that is, what are the challenges being faced? Let us see. Challenges. The fact is that we are very much advanced, we are very much advanced in designing the chips, but lack the manufacturing capabilities. Okay. Second very important challenge is, this is very capital intensive. Capital intensive industry, which needs risk taking, which needs risk taking and wait for final products matching the demand. Then we have shortage of critical inputs. And not the least, but very important, is environmental conditions. So, these are very big challenges, that whether we can have absolutely pure quality of water or not. We can maintain the required temperatures in the plants or not. Second, you should remember while writing the answer in the examination that searching for the markets and meeting the quality requirements of the market is another special component of this particular mission. So, what we are talking about in this mission is making one, better designs, and second, converting those designs in actual chips or semiconductors which can be used in different industrial requirements. Okay. Next question, let us see. Now, mineral resources are fundamental to the country's economy, and these are exploited by mining. Why is mining considered as environmental hazard? बड़ा सिंपल है भाई, मैं तो माइनिंग सेक्रेटरी रहा हुआ हूँ, मुझे याद है सारा का सारा, हमने एक केस भी हम कंटेस्ट किए थे सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जाकर. सो व्हाई इकोनॉमी is bothered about mining as environmental hazard? So, mining as environmental hazard. First is damage to the soil, then damage to the geological setting of the mining areas, third, mining activity causes dust pollution, it destroys the vegetation, and the historical mountain ranges are damaged. So, these are the major harms, and ultimately what happens, 6 also, extracted waste material, extracted waste material gets haphazardly accumulated, causing huge damage to environment. Now, what is saying here is explain the remedial measures required to reduce the environmental hazard of mining. Now, what can be the remedial measures? जल्दी से देखते हैं. बेटा जब हम रिमेडियल मेजर्स की बात करते हैं तो हमें सबसे पहले याद रखना पड़ेगा इको फ्रेंडली माइनिंग. इको फ्रेंडली माइनिंग का क्या मतलब है कि हम जहाँ पर माइनिंग कर रहे हैं जैसे जैसे एरिया हमारा माइन से ख़राब होता जा रहा है हाथ के हाथ हम फिल करें उस एरिया को, filling the ditches and deep mining areas. Going for intensive plantation. Three, strict mapping and control over mining areas and so on. So, again you have to make this chart where you have to write what are the environmental hazards and how these can be remedied. Very important, very, very important. So, basically bringing the place where the mining is done back to the original shape is the prime objective of eco-friendly mining. So, if you can write this concept, you will score very high marks. Okay. Then write a review on India's climate commitments under the Paris Agreement. Okay. So, again let us see. In 2015, what were our commitments? The biggest commitment was we shall go in for 175 gigawatt of renewable energy. And we shall remember it, we shall go in for 40% installed capacity of renewable energy generation. Then if you remember, we came to COP26 2021. We introduced a very important program and we talked about it, and are contributing towards it is life on planet. Okay. Then we basically, now we have been talking about that this target of 175 gigawatt has gone to 500 gigawatt. Third thing, for 40% installed capacity to we are now going on for 50% of installed capacity by renewables and at the top of it we say that by 2070 we will become carbon neutral. Not only this, we have gone in for creation of additional carbon sink through plantation. So, this is what we have to write in this answer, and then in this direction how was the first nationally determined contribution intended by India has been updated in 2022. Okay. So, based on these targets we basically went in for specifically enlarged and enhanced countrywide contributions which were basically enhanced in 2022. But this is what you have to build your answer on. Okay. Then what are the major challenges to internal security and peace process in northeastern states? Map the various peace accords and agreements initiated by the governments in the past decade. Very important question. First, in this question, we should start by explaining the insurgent activities. Second, existence of multi-dimensional insurgency existence of multi-dimensional insurgency bodies, ULFA and Bodo, etc. And third, while talking about it, we should mention that this is resulting into smuggling of weapons and drugs. So, first you have to give this picture in the first part of the answer because the major question. Then secondly, you have to talk about that government thought a very specific line of action. What happened? That government motivated and started motivating large number of insurgent groups to surrender with their weapons, and this activity resulted into very positive impact in the whole northeast area. So, what we started doing that we should have arrangements, agreements and treaty type of things with important insurgent groups. Although it created some problems for us because Once we went in for agreement with one particular insurgent group, other will be annoyed and they will intensify their activities, so that government comes to them and goes for further enlargement of these type of measures to assuage the hurt and damage which has happened to northeast states. So, what government did, that they started identifying the particular groups, have negotiations with them and pursue them to surrender to the government of India, so that they can be rehabilitated, number one, they can be merged in the mainstream of the society, and government also started giving lot of autonomy and autonomy based results and result oriented actions for the whole area. In other words, we can say that various agreements which were basically entered into by the government with various insurgent groups led to a series of surrenders, and people basically started living in peaceful situations. The number of camps which were existing previously in Myanmar and getting funded from China, they started reducing in numbers. There was a time when Myanmar even permitted us to take our forces there and destroy the camps which were continuously harming us, because these insurgents were, in one way or the other, were helping the left wing extremism in the country also. They were having collaboration. So, government basically went in for lot of agreements. The first agreement was agreement with NLFT, very important, lot of people surrendered. Then Bru Riang refugees agreement, then agreement for Bru Riang refugees. Another important agreement which was hailed as a great success was Bodo agreement. Then another Karbi Anglong, agreement, and then then Assam Student Union, which was basically consulted, and they motivated lot many people to surrender. But another breakthrough came when government went in for Assam, Meghalaya, interstate, remember it, interstate boundary agreements. So, these were the major agreements entered into by government with these insurgent groups, and this has resulted into lot of happiness and peace in the area. Okay, bachcho. Now, the last question and my favorite one. Why is maritime security vital to protect India's sea trade? Discuss maritime and coastal security challenges and the way forward. Here, we should remember one thing, you have to draw one map of our country. And then we have to show that these are the important points, and our, the coastal boundary. The coast extends in two areas. One, mainland areas, and secondly, islands. Now, because of this specific geographic position, and here all these Andaman Nicobar Islands and all this, most of the trade routes, they pass through this location. Most of the trade routes. If we remember, then whole of the Chinese goods, including Chinese oil, crude oil transport, happens through this particular route only, and then there are various straits which are used by China to take its oil to different locations and ultimately taking that oil to their own country. So, when there is such heavy load of ships in this particular area, there are maritime and coastal security challenges. We have noticed in the past that in high seas, the Chinese ships are always loitering around our boundaries, number one. Number two, this in Myanmar, they have two ports. Okay, so direct access to Bay of Bengal. Resulting directly into adverse impact for our country. Not only this, beta, here also China has got port. So, our coasts, which were earlier supposed to be very safe, have not remained that safe, and here we always have lot of danger of terrorists from Pakistan coming to our country. In other words, we can say that our maritime security as well as the coastal security has become a very big issue. And what can be done by the government and what is being done by the government? Now, we are trying to take our advantage of our strategic location of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, because these are located very, very close to Malaysia and other parts of Southeastern Asian countries. So, we are now having collaboration with Southeast Asian countries, and we are moving forward with the idea of Asia Pacific to India Pacific concept. So, the major action which we are at present planning to take is collaboration with Southeast Asian countries for maritime security collaborations. This one thing what we are doing is. Secondly, for coastal area, now we have developed and we are further developing impervious network of coastal and off coast radars connecting information to IMAC. So, this is what we are doing. So, we are taking care of our coastal area by making strong security arrangements, number one, and for maritime safety, we are collaborating with Southeast Asian countries, and they are very much collaborating, and we are having joint military exercises and ensuring green shipping there. So, this is another step which we have taken, is that green shipping and trying to develop one important maritime and naval base in Andaman Nicobar. Strong naval presence. So, these efforts together are sufficiently strong to ensure our position in Indian Ocean. That is how we have to write this answer. I am very sure I have been able to explain various aspects of GS3 in such a manner that you know how to write the answers, how to collaborate and corroborate information, how to take advantage of the basic concepts to deliver the connectivity with the current events. You might have seen in this paper that all the questions, all the questions were based on critical issues concept, where we go on correlating the conceptual parts with current issues, resulting into a strong network of knowledge based answer writing, which gives you edge over others. So, my advice and this institute's advice is to go in for making strong critical issues to really give a very positive shape to your preparation for Civil Services Examination 2026. Thank you very much.